Now, if you haven't watched the HLOOKUP training video, you want to watch that first before you watch the vertical lookup or the VLOOKUP training video, because there I go into depth what a lookup function is. Assuming that you've already watched the HLOOKUP training video, I'm going to jump right on into it. Now, as you recall, in the horizontal lookup, when you have your table here, it's looking in the topmost row. So down here in a cell by itself, we typed in what value you want it to look up in when it's looking in this topmost row. We want it to look like, let's say, in the year 2005, or the label for this column, which is 2006. In contrast, for the vertical lookup, it's going to look in the leftmost column. So we need to find the label for that row that we want it to look up or compare against. So let's say we want it to look up for the model 400. So down here in a separate cell, I'm going to type in 400, okay? And this is a reminder here that I want to actually cross-reference it with the 2004 column. So here is where I'm going to insert my vertical lookup function. Come up here on the Formulas tab to the Function Library, to the Lookup and References. Go down and click on Vertical Lookup or VLOOKUP. It's going to ask me three questions. First of all, what is the value I want to look up? Well, the value I want to look up is in cell E17. So I'll go ahead and I can type in here E17 and hit the Tab key, and it gives me the value of E17, which is 400K. That's the label for this row that I want to look up. Then it says, okay, well, what's the table here, the database? Click the Collapse Dialog Box button, and I'm going to click and drag and select it. Okay. Now it's important, because it's looking in the leftmost column, that if I had additional columns behind this that I didn't select any of those blank columns, I selected the labels right next to my database here. Okay. Because again, it's going to look in this leftmost column, these values here, and the criteria I set 400, it's going to compare it, and it's going to see if it's greater than or equal to. If it's equal to 400, then it says, fine, this is the row I'm going to be looking in. Next, we have to define what column to look in. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this, come down here in the column index, and it's going to say, okay, which column do you want me to look in? What's the column number? The column number is going to be based upon how many columns I have in my table. Well, the table starts here in the first column, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to look up for the year 2004, so it's going to be column number 5. So I'll come in here, type in 5, hit the Tab key, and it gives me a value. If it didn't give me a value, then something's wrong with my selection here, okay? Maybe I selected a blank column, but you want to make sure that it's not blank, that it's the actual column that has your labels in it, which should be right next to your data here. So let's see, 52, 88, 41, let's see if that's right. So 2004 down to 400, there it is, 52, 88, 41. Great, click OK, it's there. So if you watch the HLOOKUP training video and now you just seen the vertical lookup, can you tell the difference between the two? In the other training video, we're actually having the option to choose to look up by column by typing in the column labels here, 2000, 2004, to get the part numbers down below. Where this, I'm saying the flexible criteria that I can punch in at any time is going to be the row labels, so maybe 300, and hit enter. And it's always going to be pulling from the same column 2004, just on a different row. Now again, it's looking at 300 and it's comparing to these row numbers over here. So when it looks at 300 within the function here and it's an exact match, it brings up that row. Well, what if I go ahead and I type in model, let's say 425, and hit enter? There we go. We got a change. What number is it pulling? Well, again, it's doing a greater than or equal to. So is 425 greater than 400? Yes. Is it equal to it? No. So it goes up. Is it greater than 450? No. So it reverts back to 400. So this is for 2004, and there it is, 52, 88, 41. So this tells me that there could be some problems here. So if I'm the clerk at the front desk and I say, oh, we have model 425, when the table shows that we really don't, instead of scrolling through the whole database to make sure it is, just go ahead and change the function, just tweak it by first selecting your cell that has the function in it, and then coming up here and clicking on the Insert Function button, and in the range lookup, type in 0. And what that does is it says, look, if it's not an exact match, then go ahead and return a value, a false value that just basically says not applicable. Click OK. There it is, not applicable. So if I come in here and I type in the exact model number that we have here in our table, so if we do 450, then it pulls up the correct part number for the year 2004. And as I discussed in the previous training video on HLOOKUP, you can also copy and paste the formulas. I showed you that, and also how to update those formulas as well, because anytime you copy and paste a formula, it also wants to shift and move your data range around, and so you need to make sure that if you don't have absolute values connected to your formulas here, like for example, if I want to come down here and say, let's do for the next part number for 2005, let's do 2005, okay? Before I actually copy and paste this down, because if I copy and paste it down, it's going to shift everything over. It's going to shift, for example, if I just go ahead and click and drag the black cross, drag it down, and I click on the cell, it's not applicable because when I come up here and I click in the actual formula bar, you can see that it shifted everything down because again I copied that formula and pasted it down one row. Everything wants to shift down one row. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, come up here, and I'm going to tweak my function just a bit. Remember your absolute values. If not, watch the training video on absolute values. I'm going to come up here. E17 needs to be constant because it's always going to be referring to that cell. So if I click before E17 and hit F4 on the keyboard, again that's F4, click off, you can see it adds these constants or absolutes before the letter E and the number 17. So E with that constant there says always stay in the E row, and 17 says always stay in the E column, so it's always going to be static to E17. After I copy and paste my formula down here, it's not going to update and go down to E18. So let me come over here to my table and also tell it that the table also has to be the same range, A4 through J15. So I'll click before A4, hit F4, so it adds dollar signs next to the column A and row 4, the starting point, and then the ending point J15. We'll do F4 and it adds it there. Then hit enter on the keyboard. Click and drag and copy the paste the formula down. Perfect. Now of course I need to make one more tweak here, but what I'm saying here is that when I come up here and I click in it, it kept the same table range. It also kept the same criteria cell here. It didn't update it, move it down a row. The only thing I have to do is just say, look, this is for 2005. 2005 is column 6. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I just have to come up here and change this from column 5, type over at 6 and hit enter. And then in column 6 for 2005, I should get for 450, the model year, the same number, 1848, 1848. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, as soon as I upload a new video, you'll be notified instantly, and you can do that by coming over here and clicking on my face. You can also click here to support me, so for $2 a month, you can have access to over 2,700 training videos, all ad-free, and for a few bucks more, you can have access to my exercises, instructor notes, quizzes, certificate of completion, and a whole lot more.